Live stream online. Okay. All right, so today we're going to look at the next thing up in my queue, which is an iPhone 5S here with a prior repair attempt. So I picked this one to take a look at on stream just for something to add to the what not to do files. I don't know if this is recoverable. I kind of think not, but it's going to be a sad case either way. All right, hit pause. All right. So this is a phone coming to us from the UK, and it is a 5S. And it says, please recover all media, no power, no repair attempt made. Previous repair shop took a look. Original fault was the screen went blank in a call and could still hear the other caller. Well, that's a shame. It says, has been to what appears to be a chop shop for repairs before we got the phone. Missing parts around battery connector, maybe more. My customer, blah, 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 blah. Extract the media as this has their last memories of their son. Heartbreaker. So let's take a look and see what this board looks like. All right, so let's see if you guys notice what I noticed when I first looked at this board. Let's see what you think. So let's take a look. Let's make the microscope actually be in focus. All right, so we'll start here at the top of the board. So somebody has raped the digitizer connector. That by itself isn't that big of a deal. It looks like we're missing a dude here. I don't know who that guy is. That's not typically missing. And what else do we have around this area? The CPU shield is off, which is always worrisome. We're missing, I think there's a cap that goes there. And I don't see any signs of water. I don't know why someone would have taken the shield off a board that was not water damaged. So definitely concerning. All right, I don't see signs of heat around the baseband CPU, so that's good. Fucked at the dock connector, and then somebody has been soldering here. I don't know why. I don't know why somebody would hit that pin with solder. This dude is hanging on by a thread. That guy has been touched with a soldering iron. All right, what else? This shield has gotten a little out of control and looks like it's touching some other stuff. All right, at the battery connector, somebody's gone crazy. What the heck is, what? That is odd. That looks like a filter as well. Is that just a filter to ground? That'd be awesome. If that was a filter to ground, that would be fantastic, because then we would have a really good thing to be able to actually fix. Let's see, are you a filter? Get that fluff off of there. Nope, no such luck. All right. That is a lot of work to put back caps that don't need to be there. And nothing else remarkable on the top side of the board, so let's go back up and flip over and take a look around here. There's a little bit of heat burn flux there, but not anything really remarkable. That coil looks a little wonky, but also not super remarkable. I see a random solder ball hanging out. See kind of a lot of random solder hanging out. Here's some random solder there. Friendly reminder to everyone to back up your data. Yes, exactly. All right, what the fuck? Someone went crazy with a Wagner heat gun. Yeah, so this looks like the Easter Bunny was shitting out solder balls. And here's one. There's a little bit of a sign of heat right there. We'll ignore that though. Okay, let's continue on. There's a random solder ball there. little Easter bunny, shitting out solder balls on his merry way. Oh, he shit one out right here. Gotcha. What the heck? All right, PMIC area looks good. Random solder ball, random solder ball. What is up with that? All right. Base audio IC does not look like it's had too much heat, so that's a good sign. All right, here is a Tristar chip. And more little random solder balls. There's some kind of, somebody's cleaned in here, but it doesn't look like there was any actual like oxidation on any of these, so it doesn't seem like it would be a water damaged board. So I'm not sure why somebody cleaned it with some kind of chemical. All right, now this chip here has a scratch on it. That looks like damage. I don't know that chip. So that guy has a little bit of damage. All right, so let's see if you guys can pick up on what I picked up on when I first looked at this a few seconds ago. My girlfriend dumped me on Sunday. I'm here to cheer me up. Feeling depressed. Well, cheer up, Kevin. That's one toxic Easter bunny. Alrighty, so here's the deal. It might be a little hard for you to appreciate from this angle, but for me, I said, hey, let's look at that damaged chip. And when we look at the damaged chip, looking at it on its side, let's see if we can get a good view. We want to get a good view of his balls. There we go. There we go. Let's actually brighten that up if we can. Let's get some more light in here. Does that brighten? Brighten, brighten. Come on. Brighten up. All the way. You can do it. There we go. All right, so that looks normal. Little smashed hamburgers. That's what balls should look like under a chip. And if you look at any BGA chip that you can find at any angle, when you stare under the chip, you need to see it sitting on an array of solder balls like there. So we can see nice, even, little smashed sausages there. So that's good. All right, let's take a look at the Tristar chip, which would be one of the things that you would kind of have on your radar screen as a prior repair attempt. So the Tristar chip, whenever you change the Tristar chip, you almost always kind of leave a telltale sign of solder here on this screw bracket copper. To clean the pads under there, you almost always are going to just kind of paint that with solder, and that's not really that big of a deal. So this chip, though, it looks like it is kind of sitting low. So let's take a look at the solder balls that are under the Tristar chip, and they should look exactly like the other one we saw. Here's a chip that is not Tristar, so we can see again a nice view of solder balls under that chip. Now let's look specifically at Tristar. So there's Tristar, and what do you notice as you look at how Tristar is placed on the board? I don't see any solder balls at all. It is flat, flush on the board. So again, compare. A BGA chip is sitting on BGA balls. Here's another one, that first one that we looked at. Where'd you go? Any of these guys. Another, right there. Another BGA chip sitting on solder balls. And then when we look back at the Tristar chip, which is, where are you? Right here, the Tristar chip is absolutely flat, flush, flat on the board. That is a giant no-no. So that is where I'm going to start with this repair. So this is, you know, I have no idea how that came to pass, but it sounds like someone trying to lift it up and put it back down. You can't do that. You have to reball a chip. A chip is not going to work unless it has an even array of same size solder balls. So when you pick a chip up off the board, it's really tough to just drop it back on those solder balls and have them all make good connection. If you look, let's look back at that first knocked off component at the top side of the board. Like right here. Right around here. And this might be hard to appreciate as well, but these pads here, for example, they're gray, they're oxidized. If I were to just drop a component on here with flux and hot air, I really wouldn't be able to get it to solder on there and make a good connection. If I wanted to actually replace a component there, I need to first make the pads ready for a joint. So I have to touch them with flux and solder to turn them into puffy pillows. So let's get this soldering iron hot and see if you can see the difference here. Come on, you. To just sort of rejuvenate these guys. There we go. Let's heat up this board. Scrub, scrub. Scrub, scrub. All right, see the difference? These pads are shiny. They are ready for to make a new joint. All right, so my point here is that you have to have the pads prepped and ready on both the board and the chip if you want to make a good connection. So you can't just lift a chip up, because just that action, the heat from doing that, will make some of those pads oxidize. So even if you drop it right back down, it doesn't make a really reliable connection. Instead, if you take the chip off and you puffy pillow the pads, then you can take a new chip, drop it on there, and that's gonna work and be really super reliable. All right, so what are we gonna do? Roll a joint, Jessa? I don't think so. Just the tip, yes. Okay. You had it right the first time. Roll a joint, Jessa. Come on, be cool. No, it is Tuesday at 4:52. That is not how we roll. All right, so let's go ahead and start by saying we can't apply current to this board to just even see what kind of category of problem that we're in, because this thing has a Tristar chip that is flat on the ground, which means there's a good chance that someone mashed it down while heating, and that's like super horrible. So we can't even begin until we start to correct some of these problems that are on here, which is why I absolutely can't stand prior repair attempt boards. This board may be no fix, and we won't even get to the point where we can do a diagnosis until we go back and kind of clean up everybody's mess here. All right, so let's go ahead and take off the existing piece of crap Tristar chip. So let's take that off, and then we'll see what we have under there. All right, we are gonna get you the hell out of here. All right, let's fire up some hot air, and let's see what it looks like under there. All right, I'm gonna look around and say who's gonna be bothered by heat. Maybe audio IC and maybe baseband CPU under there. All right, let's get it a little more contrast here. All right, there we go. All right, let's take off Tristar to start. And remember his orientation. Of course, you can't really trust where the dot is on this board, since whoever put the chip on with no balls probably is highly likely to not care about what orientation it's in either. Yeah, look at that. They even braided the pads. Look at that. That's really remarkable. This is why I picked this board to do stream on today, because it is this just giant what not to do. So look at that. There's no balls to be found. There are no balls on the chip. Now let's look at this really close. Can you see that some of these pads, like that one, are gray? They're just not gonna make a good joint. You can't do that. You can't just take a chip with no balls and say, here, buddy, sandwich yourself on there. Can't do that. All right, so now we've got somebody that was a fan of braiding. So this actually looks like pretty careful work. These pads were clearly braided, and yet there's no solder over here on the on the screw hole. So this is something that somebody was doing with a lot of like really tiny focus on detail. So it's kind of odd that someone that would have that precision wouldn't recognize the importance of having balls on your ball grid array chip. Alrighty, let's go ahead and puffy pillow those so that we can stick another Tristar on there. Alright, so we are gonna get a bit of solder on a big wide tip. Pads are good. Oh shit, still has pads. Better have pads. Jessica, can you please tell me what day you tipped $300 to Lewis for an Apple Care call? I don't know. It's in some boring video that was, if you look around his channel, you'll see the one where I think it was shortly after that day, which is just one of these boring MacBook repair videos. There was a video that he did called Lewis Calls Apple AASP. So it was before that, and I think that night or the next day is when he did a quick video where he called over here to try out the ridiculous voice modulator thing. So it's probably the one before his voice modulator video. And it's somewhere like deep in the middle of a MacBook repair video. See what I mean? Like it's when you go to kind of tin these pads and make them puffy pillows, it's pretty natural to get solder on that ring, which is kind of a sign that somebody's been there before you. All right, let's get a new Tristar on that. All right, here's one. All right, get out of here. All right, so I've got a thin layer of flux on there already. I'll drop a 1610 chip on there. Nice and juicy. Probably shouldn't have drank a giant 7-Eleven thing of Diet Dr. Pepper before starting the stream. I can feel it in the shakes. Okay, let's get this soldered back on here. We lost the bet, says Ben Duffy. What bet? Which bet are we talking about? I recently won a bet, so I'm super excited. And the bet that I won means that you guys are all going to get to hear another 2 chapters of fascinating womanhood, which I think is hysterical. Alright, so we're going to let this chip dance and find his way. There you go, buddy. Find your own way. I don't want to tell you where to go. You tell me. There you go. Little gentle nudge. Lewis braids his pads. He does. Now, Lewis braids his pads because he works on MacBooks with plenty of clearance, and he often works on bigger chips. So if you were going to do a bigger chip that has a very fine pitch, then it does make sense to braid pads. And there's times where I braid pads. There's nothing wrong with braiding pads as long as you have a reason. So if your reason is something like, well, I have plenty of clearance. I have a board that is really thick. It's a MacBook board, so it's not as friable and gentle and thin as an iPhone board. So therefore, I'm going to braid the pad so that my chip will sit very flat. Then you can do that. If you have a connector with very, very tight clearance and you want to use hot air to seat the connector, you could say, I want to braid my pads just to make sure I have less lead-free in the mix and more leaded solder in the mix. So you could do that to remove lead-free solder. So if you have a reason, there's nothing wrong with it. But in general, for tiny micro BGA on iPhones, which is most of the chip replacements we do, it's a risk and it's not necessary. It doesn't actually improve your ability to put a chip on there, like we just saw. That chip went on just fine, and no braiding was necessary. In fact, I erased their braiding by going over and tinning these pads. All right, let's see what else we need to edit before we can even attempt to see what's going on with this phone. So I'm concerned about folks, you know, I don't like a connector that looks like this. Like there's crap. Oh, you guys can't see that. Let's see. Do you class yourself as a feminist, Jessa? No. No, I don't. Oh, let's see. This is the truck guy. I gotta answer it. It is. All right. Hi, this is Jessa. Yep. Oh no. Yep. Yeah, oil pressure, you know, check gauges, oil pressure went off the charts. But I really have to buy a truck tomorrow, so I might have to have you guys tow it over there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's the last day of the month, so I gotta buy a truck tomorrow. So it'll either, you know, like, so just as soon as you can just tell me whether or not there's a magic wand you can wave so that I could drive it, or have them come get it, or you guys drive it, or any kind of thing like that would be fantastic. All right, sounds good. Yes, I am. Right, which is why I got to buy a new truck. Toot sweet. Yeah, it's a fifth wheel. Yep. You do. Right, gotcha. Yeah, okay. That is a great option to kind of have on the back burner, so we'll have to see how it goes. Okay, well, thanks for calling me back. I don't know. I mean, the car guy said he was going to go down there personally, and he's, you know, I don't know. So many moving pieces. Yeah, stinks. I'll tell you what. I'm just glad to be off that highway. That was harrowing. Alrighty. Well, I will listen for you tomorrow. All right, sounds good. All right, thanks so much. All right, bye-bye. All right, and sorry for the delay. Guess who that was? If you guessed, it was the towing company that is calling to tell me at 5 p.m. Yeah, you know how you called here in the morning about, hey, can we look at the truck like ASAP? Yeah, we didn't get to it all day. We didn't even look at it. So, screw you. Thanks for that. All right, so truck saga is continuing on. All right, where are we here? Lewis reading that book. Say it ain't so. Yes. This time, though, I told him it would be more fun if he kind of offered his commentary. Here's the thing with Fascinating Womanhood. The book is ridiculous, and it just makes you want to throw up. However, I think every man and every woman identifies with little kernels of it that kind of resonate from sort of an evolutionary biology perspective. So if she has some tiny nugget of compelling truth that is, you know, just disgustingly heaped on with all of this bullshit. And that's what makes it a really kind of interesting, ridiculous book to read. So I think it'll be fun to watch him read that. All right. Okay, can you give us some tips and tricks about sourcing and finding spares and tools in China? Where is your favorite shops and how to not order junk? It's all about the personal relationship. You got to find somebody in China, talk to them, and build a personal relationship. And really, everybody in China is a personal shopper. So you just have to make a friend in China, and then they will go source everything on your behalf. So it's not really a bunch of different companies as much as it is a bunch of different people that have the ability to go source from everywhere in China. All right, so here's the deal with this. Let's look under the microscope. And before I try to even diagnose this phone to see what's up with it, I don't like seeing prior work that I don't know what these components are. So I'm going to get rid of them. So all along here are caps that don't need to be there from a data recovery perspective. I don't know that these are the right value. They've clearly been replaced. So I am gonna just take them off. So we're gonna get rid of all of this painstaking, difficult, hard work that someone did. And I don't know what they were thinking. Repairs in general, even these prior repair attempts are kind of a story. And so you kind of want to, when you're dealing with these prior repair attempts, you kind of want to figure out what was the thought process. Why would someone do that? And that's kind of a lot of sleuthing. So this is all sort of braided up around here, and I don't really know why someone spent so much time on this. So we're just going to kind of get rid of those unknown components. All right, let's look at the battery connector itself. I think that's all fine. All right, and then similarly over here. Now, some of these components are going to be required. So we can tell that somebody has been here at this dude. So let me look up that guy and see whether or not that's something that we need to worry about or not. All right. Rewa is a good company for screens and batteries on phones. I don't know. They have a lot of bullshit videos, so on the basis of that, I'm not sure that they would be my first pick. All right, let's see. Let's go to ZXW. Those guys are probably Ford owners. Well, she was really nice, though. She told me, don't you have to get a camper out of there? I love the small town feel of everything. These guys are in a town an hour south of here, and we're going to screen. And she said, just off the record, that she and her husband have a fifth wheel. So she's saying, if you really need to get it out of that campground, and you feel like you're having to get stuck buying a truck just to do that, maybe we can help you out, which I appreciate. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's compare to our board and see exactly what is the dude that we are concerned about. So we are concerned about, right here, I see a resistor, and then I see some shoddily soldered on dude, and maybe that guy also. So kind of on either side of that, what looks like a big filter. So let's go back and see who those guys are. All right, so resistor, so there's a cap here that is for, I don't know, let's see if the other 5S gives us more details. The other 5S board, let's see if it's the same. Does it tell me? Yes, so headphone connector, who cares? And this one, headphone connector, so our eliminating variables is going to be to just kick those dudes off as well. All right, so there we go. What you watch, the Gelon's latest iPhone 7 home buttons metal plate removal using a Dremel video. I watched Wyman's video about transferring Turtle IC, if that's what you're talking about, where he made some kind of a little tool, but this one about a Dremel tool and the metal plate to get to the touch. The Mesa chip fingerprint sensor, nope, didn't watch that. Jessa, I can replace anything on a phone, but I have issues with troubleshooting. Have any classes only for that? I mean, our class is the same every time, so it is walking you through a long story that starts with understanding the mechanics of solder flow, how boards are built, the mechanics of thermal mass, and how that relates to soldering individual joints. So even experienced solderers learn something from that even on day one. And then learning how to read a board so that you can understand when you don't have schematics on the drone or some kind of weird thing, how to get as much information as you can. Day two, we walk through every sort of common component on a board, and we understand what do they do, why are they there, how do they fail, how do we measure them with a multimeter. And then we look at schematics to identify these guys on the schematic. We learn how to order them, part sourcing, that sort of thing. We go through all the equipment, talk about equipment ordering choices and differences between equipment. And then at the end of day 2, it is beginning open-ended troubleshooting. So on day 2, everybody has schematics, and I will assign you a new problem where it's a real backlight problem, and you have to figure out on your own for this new device that's not what we talked about in the morning, who are all the players in the entire backlight circuit, and locate them on the board from the schematic. So rather than just looking for what looks fucked up, you're going to use the schematic to guide you through a hypothesis of who are all the players, and then what do you think is most likely the failure point, then go measure it with a multimeter rather than just looking for damage. So at the end of day 2, everybody is an expert, and I generally ask at the end of day 2, do you feel that on your own you could diagnose and troubleshoot a backlight failure on, let's say, an iPhone 8, assuming it has the standard backlight system and hasn't changed to a different type of LCD? And everybody says yes, so that's sort of the goal. Wednesday is a big troubleshooting day all day. So Wednesday is data recovery, water damage treatment, no power phone. So where do you start with a no power phone? How to use the DC power supply, how to measure, and how to get in the right category of problem, how to use the schematic to troubleshoot an open-ended problem. Really, really understanding what a short to ground is versus an open line, understanding power lines versus data lines, and really kind of having a fundamental of how the phone works overall. So that's a lot of Wednesday. And then at the end of Wednesday, I assign the course a group project to troubleshoot a iPad mini data recovery that I know is solvable. So I let the students kind of work together to solve that, and that's always a lot of fun. And you have to be really creative at a couple of points during that project. Thursday is micro BGA day, so everybody has to kind of complete their proficiency training in micro BGA, and then really after that it's kind of open-ended. So we might do some reballing, we might do really just kind of consulting as you begin applying these strategies to the boards that you brought from home. So after we get done with all of everybody's checked the box on, I have a working device, I do a micro BGA job, and it's still working afterwards, then everybody is working on independent projects. So I'll assign you a project if you don't have one that you brought from home, and otherwise it is kind of open-ended troubleshooting where you are applying and I am mentoring you. And then Friday, and so is Mark. Friday is the same thing. We do a review, we talk about signature problems, and then everybody really just tries to get as much time in as possible on Friday solving those projects. So there you go. The class is mostly troubleshooting. Yes, so there goes Jamie Weber, who, by the way, just solved on her own a backlight problem where she had to run a jumper using the schematic, and she didn't ask for any help and figured it all out on her own. So great job on that, Jamie. All right. Hi, young lady. How do you keep the ZXW on your PC without virus trouble? I just don't worry about viruses. Let's see. Rent a truck. Nope. I feel like slapping a stylish CSS on your website. Oh, you want to see my new website? Tell me what you guys think about this. This is my new website that is too slow, so I need to edit it. Let's see if we can find an open browser. So this is what I've been working on. Nice and slow. You get to wait. See, I like this video that I stole straight from the documentary. I love Jean's smile. Then it has this stuff, and it has one of these little, all these different news articles, reviews. Our Yelp reviews suck. If anybody wants to help us not be, can you believe that we are rated 3 stars on Yelp? 3, might be 3.5, 3. So it's all 1-star reviews, which is hilarious. I was just talking to Lewis about this today, where he was talking about, he was like, Yelp has really got a good system. I'm like, oh yeah, Yelp is fantastic. Like today, I sat with another local old man, did his Tristar job on the spot, talked with him for an hour, all about fly fishing, and this guy he used to know that could fix airplanes. Really, it's fun to just, connect with these old guys with great stories. That's some pretty awesome service to get your Tristar job fixed on the spot while you hang out and watch somebody do it. And so I was telling Lewis, oh yeah, Yelp is fantastic because 3 stars on Yelp really predicts that you would get, kind of custom, immediate board level repair service if you just walk in the door. And same thing like last night where I came in to do that. You know, it was Memorial Day at midnight that you can get your Rush iPhone 7 Plus long screw damage, which no one in the world has really, a handful of people have even seen, that you can get that done Rush at midnight on a holiday. That's what you can predict from a 3-star Yelp rating. So yeah, Yelp is fantastic. All right, Rossman is going to hate your new site. It's too fancy. Oh, he already hates it. He has been hating that for a while. All right, so let's ditch these things. What is he says about it? Oh yeah, he makes fun of you know, it is way too slow. But that's my opinion, was to try to build the content that I wanted, and then I can kind of go back and figure out how to optimize for speed later. He thinks that's dumb, but we'll see. Figured it was time to have a grown-up website. I mean, the other website is literally built by kindergartners. It's like somebody went down to the preschool and said, "Hey kids, let's make a site builder that people can use to design their own websites. Won't that be fun?" And the little kids were like, "Yeah, let's do it." So that's what we've been using so far. So it's been on the list of things to do for a long time, to ditch the old website. But it works and just kind of stays low on the priority list. All right, so I don't love the end of this dock connector, but it might not be worth it to replace it quite yet. We'll see if we can work with that for a time or two. All right, let's see what else we need to do before we can even test this board. All right, so I feel like this cap may have to be here in order. I might be wrong on that. Pretty sure it's a cap. But I feel like that some of the blue screen of death stuff on the 5S related to proximity sensor problems. And this is just a big cap, and I feel like I kind of have some recollection that I didn't really write down that it was important. And you couldn't just skip it, so I don't know. Let's see. Yelp is not taken off in the UK. What are you using? Joomla? Nope. Fly fishing. Nope, that guy was not J.R. Hartley. His name was Carl something, I think. I'm not sure. Okay, so it's not WordPress. WordPress is what I would like to be able to actually use. WordPress is for idiots like me. You know, like I don't have any desire to learn how to, you know, write style sheets or learn HTML. None of that. Not gonna do that. I'm looking for a 5S donor board so I can easily grab that cap without having to go on a big hunt. Oh, this one might have one. Let's take a look. This one looks relatively new. Nope, that cap looks like shit. Let's keep hunting for a 5S donor board. Surely there's gonna be one around here. Let's see. Hey, there we go. We'll steal it from this guy. Okay. So let's just grab that off and move it over. Okay. I hope you're using a premium Cloudflare protection on WordPress. I don't have a WordPress site. I have a kindergarten built, doesn't even have a name, piece of shit. It's practically GeoCities. It's almost GeoCities. It's not even as good as GeoCities. That's what I have right now. All right. Come on, bro, lay down. I know my one tweezer is really jacked. All right, fair enough. Let's not mix up the test board with the donor board. All right, let's clean that up a little bit. All right, you can make it secure with some plugins. If you want to have some pointers, feel free to steal stuff from our site. Not going to insert a link here because of mods. Whoa. You know, I think it's fun building a website. It's kind of like making a painting. You know, you're never done. I've learned an extraordinary amount about you know, things that I really had never used before, like all of these slides. Slides wasn't a thing the last time I built a website, but it's tough. The existing website works. The only thing that I really actually don't like about it is the repair shopper integration. So I you know, don't really want to put time into messing with the repair shopper integration. It works. It's just kind of janky. All right, let's get that little piece of a broken connector out of there. All right, what else do we need to do? Let's look up this guy. I don't know what he is or whether or not he's important. So let's go on a hunt and find out who the hell that guy is. All right. Too much Java, iQuery and iCandy stuff making it slow. Yeah, see, that's the thing where that's the thing where the guys that actually write code and make websites, their appreciation is for speed and minimalist styling and uniqueness. That's what they like. And those are generally the kinds of guys that comment on things about like, hey, let's build a website. My opinion is that the general public, the general public has an expectation of conformity, and to them, conformity to whatever crap standard it is looks professional. And you can judge that feeling if you want, but I think that conforming to whatever is sort of the modern template that all websites use is what makes your business look and feel like other legitimate businesses that these guys, that the general customer would frequent. So I think that I'm actually a fan of conforming to canned, templatey, you know, burdensome, not sleek, efficient websites. Because that's what kind of makes your website feel like every other website. It's not really a place that I think that I want to focus on being unique. All right, so we got to look up this guy. So who is this guy? Who is it? All right, let's see. Let's go over here and let's take you guys with me. All right, let's see. It is right underneath this diode. It's another cap for some fucking microphone. So who cares? Not important. All right, let's see if there's anything else that we need to address right away. So we're just gonna not bother with the digitizer. We are gonna just make sure these pins aren't gonna cause a lot of problems here. We'll just get rid of them or make them behave. Hey, there we go. Yeah, get out of there. Just, you can be all jacked if you want. You're just not allowed to talk to anybody. Not allowed to talk to your neighbor. Not allowed to touch anybody. Keep your hands to yourself. All right, let's look around. Anything else that we need to do before we can put power and see what category of problem that we're in, which is by now, with all of that fuckery, probably going to be corrupted software with no path to data. Let's just check on this, make sure we don't have anything accidentally bridged that's not supposed to be down here. Nope, I don't see any bridges. All that looks good. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So now I got to come up with a 5S dock. 5S dock, and we will connect it to DC power supply and see how we're doing. Where's the 5S? I haven't done 5S for a while. Let's see. All right, sometimes less is more. I mean, look at the Facebook evolution if you want a prime example. I get it, less is more, but it's still, it's just an art project. It's fun. I will probably heavily edit and maybe never even get to the point where I say, yeah, this is good, let's go with it. I do like the little video at the top though. That's the only thing that I really like about it. All right. We have to come up with a 5S dock because there is not a 5S dock in that bucket. Where is 5S stuff? Let's just see if we can grab one out of here. There we go. A nice new 5S dock connector. Hosting your own free Cloudflare and 1 year of free whatever the hell AWS is, which I don't even know. Sounds like something I don't need. All right. You need a fucking website. Yes. Make one on Wix. Make one on Wix. Somebody like me is probably Wix's ideal customer, which is pretty sad. Pretty sad. All right. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that little diode is fucked. I'll leave them on there. All right, let me try to make it so that I can use this dock without having to go to the trouble of sticking a new one on there. Let's get some of that flux out of it so that it can actually connect. Does Jessa read this chat? No. Why would Jessa read the chat? That's silly. All right, what model of microscope do you recommend for my new shop? I recommend that you click on the video description and you can see all the different equipment that we use here and that we recommend. You can click on it, order it from Amazon, and I get $1. And that sounds pretty good to me. I completely agree. Rossman is in the middle of New York. It's easier for him to gain customers. It sure is. So the website may not be as important, but for someone else, it's the only way. Yeah, I think that you know, like any business is kind of a function of time. If you have so much business that you are not able to find time to do things like fix your website, that's a great problem to have, and you probably don't need to fix your website. Businesses need to kind of grow their infrastructure to support their volume, and you can really run into trouble when you get a mismatch between your infrastructure and your volume. They really need to be well matched. It's kind of like a business can fail really quickly if it gets really top heavy because it grew really fast with a huge volume. Its foundation is going to be weak then. But if you grow kind of slow and incrementally, and you kind of have a linear growth path rather than an exponential growth path, then you're able to kind of like add legs to your table and build the base of your pyramid as you continue to kind of grow as a company. So things like website, you know, we are at the point where we have built a big enough infrastructure that we're stable, and with Touch IC going away, our mail-in repair volume has gone down, as well as having trained a lot of people to do these repairs at the local level, which is fantastic. That we are at the point now of growth where we can finally do fun things like work on the website. Okay, so I've got a dock on here, and it is time to connect to DC power supply and see what class of a problem this device has. All right, so we will see, do we have a short circuit or a data line problem? All right, so I have applied 3.9 volts, and now I will prompt it to boot. All right, prompt to boot. And I see it kind of hanging out at 0.25. Oh, it looks like it's moving around. Yay! Moving around is a good sign, so I'm going to put a screen on it to see if it if it actually can boot, which would be fantastic. Although I have a strong suspicion that this is going to be a blue screen of death, so it might look like it'll boot and then crash. I'm leaving the digitizer connector off, so we just want to stick LCD connector on to see what we can see. Let's see what we can see. And we're going to make life easier, and we'll go with the battery instead of DC power supply, since DC power supply answered our question, which is, what does the boot sequence look like? And it looks like it could be normal, so we will go with that. And I think for this particular case, I want to grab a known good 5S battery. Let's see, is that a known good? Let's see. Oh, it looks like it. Let's measure the battery voltage. All right. let me just find some online free template and cram tons on it. Sounds like a winning plan to me. All right, if page is slow, get better internet speed. Yeah, if you're not in a part of the world where you can get fast enough speed to load the website, then you probably are going to have mail service that's too slow to deliver your phone over here for repair anyway. So let's all save ourselves the hassle. All right, sticking a battery on here, and let's see. If you don't have a lot of money, you can buy the amp scope, some other thing. All right. Now let's prompt to boot as well. Hi Jessa, we learned something again. Fantastic. I like the video too. On my website, I assume. I had a real estate agency buy me get his website redesigned with a Web3 flashy. Right, I don't see anything on the display, but I do see that it's pulling normal charging current, so that's a plus. And I believe that the original fault was no backlight. So let's go split this screen and see if we can check for image. Let's see if we get image, but no backlight. Let's see. So I'm going to prompt to boot again. Do I see any image? I do not. I do not see any image. So there's no image. Hello, any image? Anything? Nope, nope, nope. All right, but I'm going to see if it can actually boot and be detected by iTunes, so we don't know. So we're going to let it plug into the computer, and let's see if iTunes picks it up, if it's actually booting or not. All right. Flashy web designer's website works slower and hasn't generated nearly as much income as the old one did, because the Web3 flashy designer didn't spend the time to actually code a workable background for customers and such. Yeah, I'm kind of just playing around, and if I feel like I really like a website and feel like it represents me, that I would then hire a professional to say, okay, now make this work. Make this work. All right. How I travel to learn under you. Hey, I like Wireless Hospital's advice. A plane. Anyone ever seen an iPhone 6 that will only show an image on a certain aftermarket LCD and nothing else? Nope. Some people forget to optimize. Jessa, will you recommend getting Biz on eBay? No, I will not. I will not recommend that. Ooh, I hear it. Ooh, let's see. Is it connecting in normal mode? Mary's iPhone! Yay! So it is booting. We can't see anything, but it's booting. So that is huge, huge news. That is really, really fantastic. So now all we need is to see if we can figure out why Mary's iPhone doesn't have image, and hopefully that'll be solvable. So at this point, it's worth it to me to go ahead and replace that digitizer connector just so that I'll be able to put screens on it and continue to test. So let's go ahead and do that. And I think I'm going to skip down to the end of chat because I don't like getting super behind. It's hard to move people to Repair Shopper. That is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I think Lewis probably will as well. So I looked up my stats on Repair Shopper, and according to Repair Shopper, something like about 89 or 90 people have signed up under the Jessa link on the video description to do a trial of Repair Shopper. And guess how many people out of 88 decided, yeah, this is awesome, let's do it. If you guessed 0, you are correct. So that's what I want to know. How many of you guys signed up for a Repair Shopper trial? And then what's the deal with that? Is it, yeah, and then we didn't sign up because, we never really intended to anyway. We were just kind of being nice and thought we'd click a link because it was easy to do. Or is it, yeah, I just didn't really have time to try it, things came up that month? Or is it, it was just too hard to learn, or I really couldn't see how it was better than what we had before? Or is it, I like it, I can see if I was bigger that it would be good, but I'm really just kind of a one-man shop working out of the dining room, and I don't really feel like I'm at the point where I need dedicated ticket management software yet. So what are your thoughts? I wanna know what we can do to kind of help address that problem, because I don't think it's going to be worth it for either me or Lewis to kind of continue to, you know, kind of promote something that really nobody wants to hear about. So we'll move on to something else. But first, before we decide to go, yeah, this is, you know, let's just do something else, I want to hear from you guys. What is your opinion if you did a trial on Repair Shopper? All right. Go Jessa, kill that connector like a JTAG. All right, so we're gonna come through here and just tin these pads to turn them leaded. All right, Jonathan James says, I did not like Repair Shopper at all. It was very limited on its options. Tell me what you mean by that. What did you want it to do that it couldn't do? What do you mean limited on options? One of the things that I wanted to do a video, if I was going to do another dedicated Repair Shopper video, was there's a lot of things about Repair Shopper that I hadn't until recently really explored that I really like. One of them, that my favorite thing, and I'd like to do a video dedicated to this, is the employee sales and commissions report. So here, you know, we have 7 employees, and about half of them are technicians, and the other half are kind of front of the house folks or shipping disassembly people. And I would like to know, and I've always wanted to know this, I'd like to be able to click a button and say, how much money did employee A generate for the business this month? To just sort of have a idea of each employee's contribution individually to the overall bottom line. And I think that's really powerful data. So Repair Shopper has this employee sales and commissions report, which I had no idea how it worked. So I had Troy explain it to me, and it was really simple. You kind of have to go through every invoice and just make sure that each line item is assigned to a specific technician. And that's pretty easy to do when you just tell people, hey, I'm paying attention to this, and if you want credit for the work you did, you need to make sure that something that you sold or a repair that you did is in your name. That way you can see, you can just press a button and say, how many fidget spinners did Christy sell? And answer those questions just instantly, and that's really fantastic. All right, so we're just gonna go over that with a little bit of solder. I'm gonna tin these a little bit here. There we go. And clear a little bridge. All right, so now we'll just stick a new connector on there. All right. Kevin says, I think it's fantastic. Repair Shopper is boss. What he did to fix it, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I'm used to what I have. I'm using almost every feature with help from Oberdick. Alrighty. I didn't do the trial because I have no use for it. I just watch for the techniques and ideas to improve my limited repair game. All right, fair enough. Would like it if Repair Shopper could add pictures upload to tickets of the device. Well, you can do that, and that's the kind of thing that you know. I think Repair Shopper may not be getting their training out there. You can add pictures to the ticket with a device. So, like this ticket, for example, I could take a picture of this board and say, "Look at this Tristar. It had no balls under it. That's really bad." I could take a picture, and then if I go to the Repair Shopper ticket, then let's see if I could do that. I'd have to make a new ticket. So if I went to a ticket, I could, let's just pick one. Genius Repair. Within the ticket itself, where it says actions, add attachment, and then drag files here. So you can drag files from Facebook, Instagram, Google Photos, Google Drive, take a picture. So if you have this is a MacBook with a webcam, take a picture, click, and then once it's in the ticket, you have to then do one last thing, which is to turn it from private, which is default, to public. Let me grab one of these digitizer connectors. And then after that, your customer gets an email and they can see the picture. So if you need to tell them something like, hey, this has this is damage from your DIY, screen replacement, for example. You can document that, and it'll always stay with the ticket, and that's fantastic. All right, here we go. 5S digitizer connectors. Okay, let's pull this up. All right. Cold press screens. What? I want to see what you guys have to say about this repair shopper stuff. So, yep, repair shopper you can add pictures. Thanks to you and Louise, I have invested in a rework station and some essential equipment to start my own repair business. Well, that's fantastic. Hope you do well. I just bought my first fidget spinner 2 days ago. We just got new fidget spinners today. We got the light up ones, which are really cool, and this metal kind that's actually also really cool. So super fun time with fidget spinners. Crazy thing that it is. The big minus is that it's online, from what I've seen. No internet, no tool. I can appreciate that. It is cloud-based, so that is both a sort of a challenge, a curse and a blessing, I guess. It's a curse and a blessing. So let's get this connector popped back on here, and then we'll go on a hunt to see if we can figure out why this doesn't have any image. Alrighty. So let's get this on here. All right, so my tweezers are pretty janky right now, but I kind of really like them. They have decided on their own to evolve, and they have metamorphosized so that they have made these super teeny tiny little mini J-tips, which I kind of really like. Look at this one. See how it's like a little J-tip? Right at the end, it's curved. So I kind of really like it, but it makes them really like not be great mini hot tweezers anymore. But that's okay. Can't have everything. All right, let's see how they perform as we try to just say, hey, can you do your #1 job? You had one job, deliver solder to connector joints. Can you still do it? You still got what it takes? It's really, really awkward, but we'll try to make you do it anyway. We'll just kind of lay you on the side and force you to behave. There you go. The Zen-like zipping up of a connector. Everybody likes to do connectors. If only the world still had connector repair. Those were the days. Those were the days. Nobody needs connectors anymore. Or if they do, they go to their local guy, as it should be. Because everybody loves the Bob Ross happy little pins. Another happy little pin, happy little branch, happy little joint of doing a straight up connector job. Beautiful little joints all in a row. Very zen, very peaceful, very done. All right. So let's clean that up and then let's go on a hunt for why does this thing not make an image? All right. I'm at the stage of working out of my basement, but I'm planning on signing up for the free 25 tickets a month plan to get used to it for when my business grows. That's a great idea. I think, setting up inventory if you're an existing business is really daunting, but it's great. If you set up inventory so that you have your cost and your price for everything that you sell, and you enter in customers and you make invoices, then you get to have the great, amazing feeling at the end of the month of being able to run all the reports and know exactly what did well and what didn't do well and blah, blah, blah. Alrighty. Okay. So let's go on a hunt. Let's go back and think about image. Let's look at the connector first. I don't think there's going to be anything going on there. But let's just check and see what could be the deal with why a phone detected in normal mode doesn't have image. So let's see. Image data comes through these data chokes. They all look fine. We could go test for a beep. Backlight filters look fine. I don't like that little speck there. All right, I'm looking for anything that looks obviously burned or corroded, and I don't see anything. And the connector itself seems okay. So I'm gonna not think that's my first place to look. So image data comes from the CPU. If the CPU is fucked and not making image data, there's not much I can do. Next is image power. So image power is going to come from the Chestnut chip. And in the 5C at least, it used to get Chestnut area problems. So this is the Chestnut area on this one. And I see like some discoloration there, and I remember there was like a little burn mark when we first started looking here. So the easy thing to do, I could just kind of gut this whole area, but let's just see. I doubt I'll find any shorts to ground. The intelligent thing to do would be to actually measure voltages, but that would take too long. All right, whoop. Let's see. I like Repair Shopper, but I've not had time to fully explore the integration, says Andrew. All right. We used to handwrite tickets, but we use Repair Shopper and we think it's great. It's wonderful to be able to search everything instead of flipping through handwritten tickets. All right. Spinners, yes. All right, let's just test around here and see if there's anything that is short. 0.102. I don't think I have a known good 5S, but that seems a little bit low. .102. That is low enough to prompt me to go, is that really how it's supposed to be? So I am going to see if I have a 5S, which I really don't keep a known good 5S. I've tried every single screen I have in the store. It only wants to work with a certain model aftermarket LCD. Here's an example of the Power Repair Shopper. We use an iPhone as our main business phone, not a PBX system, but we set it up so customer names show up on the iPhone from Repair Shopper using Zapier. That sounds pretty cool. Let's see what I can do to come up with a 5S that is something I can measure. Let's see, I'm gonna go with this one here. Probably being measurable. All right, so let's go ahead and measure that same cap on a board. Oh, great, a water damaged board. That'll be a great one to use as a reference value. Fantastic. All right. 146 on YouTube and 5 people on Twitch. 5 devoted Twitch guys. Yeah, 0.506 on the water damaged fuckboard. All right, so that tells me that that is a problem worth investigating. So I'm going to stick this board back over here where it moves so that I don't lose it. All right, so let's go find out what line that is, and probably it is that bad cap itself going bad, and we'll kick it off. But let's go on a hunt. Another example, our intake form is read and signed on an iPad using the app. We do the same thing. So we've got a shop iPad up in the front, and we have folks kind of enter their own information and enter their own tickets. All right, PP6V0 LCM boost. That sounds super important for image. All right, so this thing here, C329, is not, does not have the same resistance to ground that it does in a different phone. So let's see. Sorry, meant Mr. Rossman. What are you talking about? Somebody's got an iPhone 6 with error 9. That's too bad. You should probably you should probably do something about your NAND problem or who knows what. if you have a question that is about a specific iPhone problem or iPad problem, you can post it on a forum so that the discussion that is on the video is relevant to the problem that we are trying to solve together. Otherwise, it gets really confusing. So yeah, we go on a lot of tangents, and yeah, we talk about a lot of sort of off-topic social stuff. But as far as your iPhone questions, you need to post those on a forum. I'm not going to answer specific questions on the stream about your iPhone problem. All right, one-click ordering of stock. Repair shopper knows what stock you have. Well, Kevin, it sounds like you should definitely be the repair shopper sponsor, that's for sure. All right, so on this board, let's go ahead and take this cap off and see if that helps us out with our diode mode reading that is low on this or not. All right, I'm drooling over repair shopper every day. Damn, Kevin. Sounds like Troy needs to send you a cupcake. A repair shopper cupcake. You need to be wearing the repair shopper t-shirt. All right, let's get rid of this guy. All right, why is the meter ticking like that? You mean measuring in diode mode? Well, in my particular meter, which I really like, I'm gonna save that guy so I can measure him if I want to later. My meter is the Fluke 115, which I really like, and the main reason that I prefer this over others is because it does that. It has the continuity mode beep when you have 0 or super low resistance to ground. Right, so we took that guy off. So now let's go back and measure diode mode to ground, which is my preferred short detection measurement. All right, so we'll go red probe on ground, and we're going to diode mode. And we are at 0.484. So that is fantastic. So it sounds like this cap was partial short. Let's ask him. Hey, you ugly looking piece of shit. What's your problem? Let's see. What happens here? Can we even measure you? You're covered with crap. Let's measure his capacitance, which is something I rarely do. We'll put the old multimeter in capacitance mode and see what we can get. It's going to be hard to get any kind of reading, but we'll try. We'll try our best. Just reading OL, and I can't tell if that's because I can't actually touch the thing to get a reading or not. Here we go, 62 microfarad. Let's try again. Come on, read it. Come on, read it. Read it, read it, come on. You can do it, read it. Not, oh well, you piece of shit. Read it. It just keeps saying, oh well, it can't tell me. All right, so let's go back and see on screen what's that guy supposed to be. 22 microfarad. All right, so let's just go with that guy had some kind of partial or intermittent short to ground. And let's just go grab that dude off of another 5S board and put him back, because it's a pretty big capacitor. So I think we're gonna want him to be there. That's a 5C. So let's go back to Microscope and let's find a donor. All right, how about you? How about you? What's your diode mode reading, bro? We're not going to take you unless you can pass the diode mode test, because this is a very common area of damage. Come on, go to diode mode. Stop fucking around. Stop telling me that there's something wrong with the lead. All right, ground. 0.505. Great. So we will declare that you are a good candidate. So let's go ahead and take you off. And we are going to just transfer you over to your new home. You're going to love it over there, because you are going to help Mary get her pictures back. I just know it. All right, come on, bro. I really sometimes wish that I could just be a fly on the wall or just kind of get to talk to, like, hey, whoever looked at this phone first, what possessed you on a phone that had an image problem to take Tristar off, delete all the balls, braid all the pads, fuck with all the connectors, put back a bunch of irrelevant missing dudes about headphone? Like, what was your plan? What was your troubleshooting plan? What was your brain telling you was the rationale here? Just want to know. Alrighty, let's see. The Twitch love. All right. What software are you using for board view? This is the XW software, which is again in the video description. If you are interested in tools and equipment questions, just go look at the video description, because I spent a long time writing all that down so that you could know. All right, there we go. Now let's clean that off and see what our diode mode reading is right there now. All right. What temperature do you use? Oh my God. I use a temperature that the art of transferring components has taught me with this particular station is neither too hot nor too cold. And that is something you will have to figure out using your own workpiece, giving feedback to you with your station to figure out. No one on the internet can tell you a set of numbers that are going to have any relevance at all to your station and your board. All right, you should try the new tips on the JBC Nano. I don't like those. I've tried those a few times. I really, they're not my favorite. Lots of people like them. I've never liked it. Okay. Hi, Jessa, iPad Rehab. All right, let's go back and check out our diode mode now and see if we have returned back to this partial shorted condition because it was actually a problem under Chestnut, or if we're good, or if we are good to go. 0.502, yay. All right, so now that we have actually solved a problem so we found and we identified an image related problem. We have solved that problem, so that makes sense to go back and test. And now that we have a beautiful new digitizer connector, we can actually put a screen on and see what happens now. So previously, if you're just showing up here on the stream, this is an iPhone 5S that had some prior repair done to it before. It's from the UK, and this has the mother's last pictures of her son, last memories that we're trying to get back for her today. And so far we were able to put out enough fires to get this phone to boot and be recognized by iTunes, and now we're just trying to troubleshoot an image problem, which means I need a reliable 5S screen. Here we go. That is actually a 5C screen. Alrighty, where is the 5S? Here we go. All right, we've got a dock, we've got a screen connected. 20 pounds from Kevin. I appreciate the knowledge that you share every day. Thank you. Well, thank you for using Repair Shopper and being such a fan of it. That is fantastic, and glad to hear you guys are doing well. All right, 5S battery. I don't hear her. What are you talking about? That's just because I'm saying what you don't want to hear, which is post questions on a forum. All right, let's find the dock connector. So I have now connected a battery and a screen and a dock again, and now we're gonna see if we magically get image. So if not, we will continue to troubleshoot. Oh, I saw an Apple logo. Ah! All right, let's see if we can get this phone to boot and get it back to data, which would be super, super awesome. And if not, it will be a crushing, soul-crushing defeat where you know that in your hands, you were so close to a mother's precious memories of her son, her last memories of her son, and that you failed to be able to get those for her. That will really be a downer. Ooh, slide to unlock. Oh, we got a troubleshoot touch. So close. Oh man, we are close. We are close. We are close. Come on. Just be the screen. How about just one time you could just be the screen? Come on, baby. Come on. Slide. You can do it. You can slide. Don't make me go chase down a touch problem after solving no power. Oh, more work for Mary. Mary got a text message. Geez, Mary got oh. I thought that was, it says 8/16. So I was like, geez, from 2008? No, that would be only a year ago. All right, let's see if we can, let's just see if maybe this screen is a bad screen. And now that we really need touch, let's just go back and make sure that I didn't fuck up that touch connector, since I'm the one that just put a new digitizer connector on there. So let's look real close at my connector job that I just did and see if I messed anything up. Looks good. Yeah, looks good there. All right. Come on, show me a cold pin. Something I missed. You might be cold. Are you cold? Be cold. All right, he could potentially be cold. He was the first one I was doing with the janky tweezers. Let's give him a little kiss. All right, and then we'll try a different 5S screen. All right, join a forum. Yes, join a forum or use Google. If I was in the US, I would totally go to your course. Well, we get a lot of people that that come from all over the world, which is what makes the course a lot of fun. There we go. Okay, we've definitely doctored up that guy. So now I'm actually going to go over just to rule out, a lot of times our known good screens that just get put through so much daily use and abuse with all these data recoveries that they turn from known good to known bad real quick. All right, so let's, hi Jessica, good morning. It's 3:30 a.m. here, and I just got up to use the bathroom and saw that you were online. So instead of going back to bed, I said, what the heck? Let's watch a little iPad rehab. Let's see if she can bring joy to this mother or heartbreak. It is a joy or heartbreak day. Joy or heartbreak. There's really nothing that is more rewarding in this profession than being able to, to respond, to my customer has authorized any extra time, money, tools you need to extract the media, as this has their last memories of their son. Heartbreaker. So to be able to actually get that information and to bring that kind of voice from beyond to that person in pain is really it's incredible. I mean, it's the most rewarding thing. But at the same time, when you get like this close, if we're not able to get touch on this phone, if it turns out to be some kind of, CPU defect, it is so hard when you can get a phone back to image and you can see it, but you can't click that trust and get in there. All right, so we've got the phone so that it has power now, and we made it have image, and now it has no touch. So we're gonna see if we had a bad screen or maybe just one bad joint on my new digitizer connector. and we will see what happens. So let's find out. All right, new screen, and I kissed the connector, and let's see what we get now. All right, so we're going for try number 2. Come on, touch, baby. Come on, touch. Where is your forum? My only forum, and I do have a forum, is just for people that came to the course, because those people I trained, and I know they have been taught by me to think this way and to troubleshoot, so I yell at them. Oh, is that her son? Here, mama. No touch. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Oh, heartbreaking. All right, so it looks like we have a deeper level of no touch to troubleshoot than just bad screen. But let's get a good picture of this while we can, to just show this mama her son. It's hard for you guys to see. There he is. All right, let's see if we can get touch working. All right, so what does it take to have touch? Touch, since we had a Chestnut fault, we had that boost line for image that was bad around Chestnut. I am going to Rossman Group Forum. Rossman Group Forum is Lewis's forum, who, by the way, doesn't fix iPhones. And when I send people to sign up for his iPhone forum, it's a little bit of a troll. So just, that's not my forum. I'm not going to be answering questions over there for Lewis's forum. That's all him. All right, Jason will answer some questions over there. Okay, so let's see what's up with why this thing doesn't have touch. So choices are bad connector, which I doubt, since we just put a new one on. And then data comes from touch from the Sage chip and the Cumulus chip in the iPhone 5S. So those are possible failure points. But given the history of the device, that would be something, a failure I expect after drop. So while it's a possibility, damage, that's kind of a little bit on my radar screen, because I see a tiny little nick right there. But that's probably not as high on my radar screen as Chestnut function, so loss of Chestnut function. So I'd like to know which of the touch power lines come out of Chestnut, and I know that chip had a short on this also Chestnut rail, the 6VO LCM rail. So that makes me think that maybe Chestnut itself was electrically insulted by virtue of this having a short on it. So I am going to, I already checked these caps here. I guess I'll look again. I don't really know what their normal values are, but I am looking now a little bit more towards Chestnut before I would go to the trouble of looking up and measuring Chestnut output voltages. All right, 0.53, 0.419. And this one I think is Chestnut's nut. And 1.393. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change out Chestnut, just on the evidence that I'm looking to get done with this repair quickly rather than spend a long time doing diagnosis. So it's actually takes longer for me to look up, which one of these guys is the 5V7 and connect the screen and try to get a voltage reading, etc., to figure out whether or not Chestnut is misbehaving, than it does to just say, let's just change it out and see what happens. So to me, changing Chestnut is the diagnostic tool. And that's largely because I'm confident from experience in my ability to successfully change Chestnut without causing any other problems. So the act of changing Chestnut is not a variable for me. So that's what my thinking would be on this, and that's why I would do it. If I was a new person and I hadn't done a lot of micro BGA work, then it would be more important to me to actually verify that I was missing Chestnut voltages, and that it wasn't just one of these caps is bad or something like that, or Chestnut, or if all these voltages are there, then it's going to be a Sage or Cumulus problem. All right, so everything looks good under there. Kick off my heatsink. So if I was new, I would first make sure that I was missing Chestnut output voltages before putting in the variable of putting heat on a board, especially one right next to the NAND here. That would just give me more potential variables to this problem. All right, so let's go ahead and knock these balls down. So I'm definitely not going to braid in here, because if I lose one of those pads, that would really put a hurtin' on me. It would make it extremely difficult for me to get image and touch going, and that would not be worth it in any way. So I'm just poking them flat. Round ones are going to be a little tough. All right, I'm happy with that. And shut this hot air up. Okay. Ooh. Do you sell a lot of spinners? We've sold none here in the UK. I must be doing something wrong, since Butterfly seems to sell tons. I think you have to, we don't sell a ton of them, but we did have this little kid come down from the middle school, and he wants to be a distributor. All right, kid, we'll make you a deal. That was pretty funny. So it is a huge thing in the schools, but now it is pretty ubiquitous. So what we did was ordered a bunch of different styles and types of spinners, just mainly to have kind of people understand at the local level that we have stuff that they can stop in and look around. So if you are heading to a birthday party and you forgot to get the kid a present because you just found out about it that morning, that to just sort of have on the radar screen that they could stop in here. The problem with that is that we are only open when we feel like it, so we don't really have normal hours, so that's not super conducive to retail sales. All right, now we need a new Chestnut. Trying to keep this so that you guys can see this chip, but my view, when I'm looking at it straight up and down, the camera is picking it up at an angle. Lewis talks too much. So do I. So do I. It's really not super fun to just, I mean, the reason why we do a stream, like why am I doing a stream right now? It's going to be because something is interesting or fun to share. For example, the reason why I'm doing this one is really two reasons. It started out to say, hey, you can't place a BGA chip with no balls on it, and here's why. This phone doesn't boot. So that's kind of why I started this stream. But then it's honestly fun to kind of like have folks following along on what really is a interesting thing. You know, like this is in the next, like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, either we're going to be able to call up a mom and give her the greatest gift that she could ever ask for, you know, kind of here in this sort of Mother's Day summer season, or we are going to have a crushing, mind-blowing defeat that's going to make us want to jump off a bridge on the way home. So both of those things are really dramatic things that can happen in a day, rather than just like, what'd you do at work? Paperwork, you know, I filled a report and did another TPS report, you know. All right, let's make sure we don't get Chestnut on in the wrong orientation. So we're gonna go back and check on that. So here is U3 Chestnut chip. All right, so the dot is down here. So we will make sure that we match that with our orientation. And I think that we did. Did we? Right? That's the dot right there, right? Pretty sure I didn't mess that up. But I think I might want to just look on another Chestnut, because that would be a really stupid mistake to make. And super embarrassing, since it would be recorded forever for everyone to remember the time Jessa Soldered chip one upside down. She was too busy talking about spinners. Screwed that poor lady. What a nightmare. Alright, so now let's get Chestnut back on. Now, if that doesn't make a difference, then it might be worth it to measure Chestnut voltages before going ahead with the other alternative, which would be to investigate whether or not Sage and Cumulus have a problem. Alright, so this is a little bit over further than I'd like it to be, so I'm going to kind of give it a little starting help. Yikes, my table is moving. Stop that, you bad piece of shit. Alright, let's see if I can get my tweezers out of there now. Oh, so close. Alright, now let's flip it around so that I can get my airflow not blowing directly on the Wi-Fi chip. Get plenty of flux there and make this chip dance and find its own way. Find its own way, but it's tacked down now so it can't really go nuts. There you go, buddy. There you go, bro. Yeah, keep dancing. You got it. That's your spot. Good job. Good job, Chestnut. Proud of you. I'd like to nudge it, but that didn't happen that time. Alrighty, let's let that cool down for a second. Let's let that cool down and touch. I from Spain, says Pablo. Alright. Good morning. They rounded everyone up some quickly. I'm back. U4000. Nope, this is U3. Why this the only cap on the LCM boost line? I think it looked pretty normal. You mean the physical appearance? Yeah, it did look normal. That's why I mean, how would you know to look there? And the answer is from experience. That's one of the things that there's really no substitute for. If you sit here and you look at board after board after board after board after board all day, you'll start to notice signature problems and classic failures. So there will be some, you know, like if you look around, like on this exact board, I mean, there's not physical damage all the time. Like these guys, I have never seen any of these fail ever in thousands of boards. But I've seen these guys fail. I've seen these guys fail. I've never seen any of these guys fail in thousands of boards. They just don't fail. However, I've seen all of these guys fail. I've seen him fail. I've seen him fail. You know, I've seen all, you know, the filters will fail. One time, I think it was a 5C, one single cap around here failed. And it can take you a half a day to find that one failure when there's no physical damage. But after that, then you look there. So there's really no substitute for just this, you know, deep experience in just solving the same problems all day. All right. Was this the only cap on the LCM boost line? Don't know. Hey, guys and girls, stop moving the camera off the repair. I really can't control that. But see, the camera is not looking straight down the microscope, and I can try to do that, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it at all now. Let's see. So I adjusted that. So that is in focus for me, and Chestnut is directly in the center of the screen. How about for you? Yeah, it is nowhere near possibly in focus, which is why I had it kind of up like that. All right, so now that is, Chestnut is centered for me, and for you, it's the bottom left. So if I'm working on it here, because it's centered for me, it's just going to be off the screen. So we'll have to kind of edit that and see if we can get that more aligned. I wonder if Lewis will stream today. I'm going to go with probably not, unless it's super late at night. I'm pretty sure they're going to go out to dinner to celebrate a graduation over there. All right. Cancer. Mod strike. What? Things recorded forever, like the time Lewis spent an hour and a half trying to fix a board he didn't take the JTAG off of. Oh yeah, exactly. A recall on spinners? For what? It's a 5S. Yes, I love repairing stuff. Working in office, staring at a computer all day, boring. Nothing better than physically repair something. Yes. Did it work? Not yet. What we've done so far is we have this board will boot, and it had no image, but we made it have image. We made image great again, and then it didn't have touch. So we fixed up the connector and tried a new screen, and it still didn't have touch. So what we've done just now is we have replaced Chestnut. So we are going to try again. We are going to try again. So we've let it cool down. And now we're going to check to see if replacing Chestnut has done anything for us. All right. So we will prompt boot. Now we didn't measure Chestnut outputs to see whether or not Chestnut had an actual problem. We are going with, I think something's up with that screen. We are going with the idea that it was easiest to just replace Chestnut, to rule it out. All right. Oh, it's sticky. Gotta clean up the flux. Can't have it be like that. All right, and now I see no image. So now we've gone backwards, and since we don't have image, now we need to see if it's still booting or not. So not a step along the way of progress. That's the way it goes sometimes. And it's super hot in here. All right, so 5S. Let's see if it is consuming normal current or not. All right, plug in there, you. I guess there's a possibility that since our dock connector is bad, that we're going to have problems using it to prompt to boot. Yep, we are getting no response out of that dock. No response out of the dock. So no response out of the dock generally means the dock connector itself, or the dock or the connection, is not good. They always flicker or move. So great. All right, let's see, just for the sake of kind of getting somewhere quickly, what happens if we prompt to boot with the power button. So we're going to just kind of short down the power button and see if we can get a response. Otherwise, it means replace the dock connector in order to continue on. And I probably need to go check on some things that I need to do. I need to make some phone calls about the truck before continuing on. All right, I was able to prompt to boot with the power button, and I see the Apple logo, so that means that just that dock was bad. Let's see if I can hold this on there long enough for it to boot, and we'll see if we have touch or not. So it looks like we're gonna have to fix that dock connector. It has finally gotten janky enough that we can't use it, and we knew that it was banged up on one end. Touch. Yay! Touch! Yay! All right, let me see if, yes. Yay! Ah! Well, that is a good feeling. All right, so I'm gonna get off DC power supply, stick her battery on here, and see if it will boot. I really want it to just boot with this dock and not have to do another connector. Let's just see. Yay! Yay, yay. Yay, yay, yay. All right, come on, piece of shit dock. Can't you just give me like one blip? Actually, let me see what happens if I stick it back in the native housing. How about the native dock? The native dock. Oh yeah, it came with like half a shield on it. I thought that was kind of weird. No battery. Yay! We are gonna get data. That is awesome. All right, let's read them. Yes, it works. Yeah, so we're gonna get a battery on it so that it'll be stable. Yay! This is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be great. What a great way to end the day and go have to deal with truck wars. Let's look at that dock though real quick and see how bad it is. It's pretty bad. Come on, let's just edit you back up. Can't you just suck it up one more time? You've been through so much already. Here, let's just kick off the little plastic end of you. You don't really need that. All right, now come on everybody. Just act cool, just for like one more time. Seriously, one more time is all I ask. Then you'll be able to retire. You'll never have to pass anything through you again. Okay, so let's get a screen on here. Screen. And the native dock. Yee. All right, piece of crap. Battery. And prompt to boot. Please prompt through the dock and make my life easier. Come on. No! Work, you piece of shit dock. God damn it. Fuck. All right. Let's get it to prompt. So happy that touch worked though. All right, so I can still prompt with power button and then we'll just have to edit the dock and get her data. But I just want to show that anyway. Summary of the repair. This is an iPhone 5S here from somewhere in the UK, and it is a mother my customer has authorized any extra time, money, tools you need to extract the media, as this has their last memories of their son. Passcode is correct. And let's see. And I can see lots of family pictures. Yeah. It's probably one of those guys. In general, moms are happy to, yeah, so it looks like probably this guy. Alrighty, so she's gonna get her memories back. She had the passcode. Oh yeah, it was an illness. Sad. Okay, so great news for that mom. And for you guys, the reason I chose this one for stream today is because you can't just take a chip off and not reball it or get a new chip and just smash it onto the board. That doesn't work. The other sort of lesson to learn from this phone is, somebody did a lot of work here, and this mom is clearly desperate for these memories. So this was an image problem. I mean, it says on the note that the original fault was the screen went blank in a call, but you could still hear the other caller. So that means this was a display problem from the beginning. Likely it was this bad cap that we found and the bad Chestnut. So there was no reason for anyone to have ever been messing with Tristar on this phone. That makes no sense at all. And there was no reason for anybody to be messing around with digitizer, banging up the digitizer connector, banging up the dock connector. knocking off dudes by the battery, and then spending time putting irrelevant capacitors back at the battery, irrelevant capacitors for headphones. That there's all of that was risk that someone was taking on a phone that was very dear to someone. And I think that the lesson here is if you have data on your phone, back it up. And if you have a customer that comes to you, really think about what you're doing and why, and have a rationale. Be able to explain it to somebody. You're braiding pads, why? Be able to explain your thought process. Here for us, my thought process was before I could put any power into this board, I had to take away things that didn't belong, that didn't make any sense, that could be variables. So you're always trying to eliminate variables. So before I started, I had to replace the Tristar that was just sitting on the board with no balls. I deleted any components that were not native to the board that someone else had placed, because that person was the kind of person that thinks you can place Tristar with no balls, so I couldn't just trust any of their work, and it all had to go. Then I had to edit some connectors. I put back a capacitor that experience tells me may be required because of the blue screen of death in the 5S and proximity sensor function problems. I went around and I looked up anything that was missing, whether or not it was important. Anything that had been replaced, I took off if it wasn't relevant for data, like headphones. Nobody cares about headphones to get data. So once I had all that cleared, that was the first time that I put power into the board, and I found that it had a normal boot signature. So very quickly I shifted from DC power supply to the battery, because the battery provides gas gauge information, and we know that if you live too long without gas gauge, then you're going to corrupt the board. So we used the battery, and we were able to find that the board was detected by iTunes, so it booted, but it had no image. So we were back to the original, yay, I got a cheer, and I got a super cool, and I got some DKKs, DKKs from Mr. Tie-Man. Thank you for that, I appreciate that. So after kind of clearing all variables, so you're always trying to reduce variables, then we were back to what would have been the original problem, which is this phone has no image, why? So it's not a backlight issue. All of backlight components looked fine. This was an image issue. So we looked at image data lines and we looked at image power lines. Image data lines really just go from CPU through some filters to the connector. So that was less likely than having an image power line. So image power is going to be a function of Chestnut. And in the 5C and the 5S, one of their signature failures is that some of the Chestnut related caps just decide that they don't like being caps anymore. So we found a tricky one, and we found it through diode mode testing, which means you have to have a normal value to compare to. So I measured the LCM boost cap and found that its diode mode measurement was 0.1, and I didn't know what it was supposed to be, but I felt that that was low. So I got a good board and measured it at 0.5, so it was indeed low. And then I took that cap off. The line was then back high. I replaced that cap because that's a big 22 microfarad cap. I don't think that Chestnut function can work without it. And then after that, we had image, but we had no touch. More work at the digitizer connector, try a new screen, still no touch. And at the end, we decided that while it could be data related to touch, so Chestnut or Sage or Cumulus, we looked at the connector, we looked at any filters, any kind of obvious problems, we didn't see anything. And so then that kind of really pointed to Chestnut again, or one of its surrounding caps. So since there had been a Chestnut cap fault, that kind of tells us that Chestnut could have had a drop, or that cap going bad could have electrically damaged Chestnut. So Chestnut kind of went way up on the priority list. So having this rationale, this logic that's pointing you and driving you, that's what you need to develop if you're going to be taking a risk with some mother's precious memories that you could fuck and screw her like these guys almost did. That's not cool. You can't, just, give it a try. What the heck? That's really, really not cool when it's something that's so important to some person. So in the end, we decided rather than measure Chestnut outputs, which would be a reasonable thing to do to be able to rubber stamp and say, yes, Chestnut is not actually working, therefore replace it. Instead, because of experience and in doing this a lot, I felt that it was not a risk for me to just change Chestnut, although that is introducing a variable. Change Chestnut for the win! And the phone came back. Dock connector stopped working somewhere along the way, and we could see that from the beginning there was dock connector damage. So we're gonna have to go back and make the dock work again in order to actually pull her data off. But we do have, as it is right now, this phone is booting, and it has image and it has touch. So we are gonna just edit up the dock, and we got it working. So we are able to enter passcode, and we have a path to data, so we're gonna make somebody happy today. All right, let's see. Well done, Jessa. Hype everyone. All right, don't feed the trolls. Love it. You're the best. Pretty sure it's TV Man D, not Timon. Well, I am old and reading across the thing. Do you really need image to back up your data? Yes. This stream sucks. So does your mom! That's really funny. Couldn't you just emulate the touch I2C and send touches at the lock screen numbers? No. It's far easier to just fix touch. All right, we've had great success, and the chat was great, and the stream was also great, so it's you who may suck. No, it's Ryan's mom. Ryan's mom. Hey, your mom was really hot last night, Ryan. All right, let's see. Or even just touch the screen at the right places. That, you put your phone at risk of disabling it when it's, how long did it, you can go back and look at the timestamps. How long did it take to troubleshoot touch? I don't know, it felt like about 10 or 15 minutes. So that 10 or 15 minutes to have touch working is, in my opinion, far safer than blindly trying to enter input. And the reality is that the phone didn't have touch. If it doesn't have image, it's probably not going to have touch, because Chestnut is the driver for both image and touch. So that would be unlikely. All right, is there a common hardware fix for iPhone 6 stuck in headphones mode? Change charge port. Here come the mom jokes. Yes, everybody likes the mom jokes. Alrighty guys, so that was a good one, and I will see you all next time.